Welcome to our deep dive today.
It's all about the book of Deuteronomy.
Okay.
Chapters 1 through 4 to be exact.
It's Moses' final address to the Israelites.
You know, right before they enter the promised land.
Yeah.
And it's amazing.
It's packed with insights on faith, obedience, and God's promises.
And I think for me, just trying to wrap my mind around it.
Imagine leading a group of people for 40 years.
Through the wilderness.
Oh, yeah.
How do you keep them motivated, faithful?
And on track.
Moses has some really powerful techniques.
It does.
That we can all learn from.
Yeah, and what's so fascinating is that...
He doesn't just start off with like a list of rules.
Right.
You know, he starts by recounting their journey, reminding them where they've been.
What they've overcome.
It's like he's saying, look how far you've come.
Yeah.
Remember the challenges you faced.
The victories that you achieved.
And how God was with you every step of the way.
Yeah, it's almost like a highlight reel.
It is. But he doesn't shy away from the tough stuff either.
He brings up that story.
Of the spies.
Yeah.
Who were sent into Canaan.
And how their fear and doubt
held an entire generation back.
Yeah.
From entering the promised land.
It's a powerful reminder.
That our mindset can really shape our reality.
I know. It is.
And it's just like the Israelites, right?
Yeah.
They let fear paralyze them.
But we, too, can be held back from pursuing our goals.
Because of self-doubt?
Absolutely.
What if I fail?
What if I'm not good enough?
But Moses is reminding us
that with God, no obstacle is insurmountable.
Like he's calling us to step out in faith.
He is. And
trust that he will equip us for the journey.
He will.
And there's this other interesting detail.
In chapter 2, where God gives very specific instructions.
About avoiding conflict.
With certain groups.
That's right. It's not just about who to fight.
It's about choosing your battles wisely. Knowing when to engage.
And when to move on.
Sometimes the wisest course of action
is to simply walk away from a conflict. Even if you feel like you're in the right.
Right.
So after years of wandering.
They finally reach this turning point.
It's the crossing of the Zered River.
Yeah.
This marks a significant shift.
It does.
In their journey, doesn't it?
It does.
And we see this incredible display.
Of God's power.
When Moses recounts their victory.
Over King Og of Bashan.
Wow.
No city was too strong for them, with God on their side.
Right.
It's a powerful reminder that we don't have to face our giants alone.
No, we don't.
God is fighting for us.
Even when we don't see it.
Even when we don't see it, that's right.
But then comes this incredibly poignant moment.
Moses himself asks to enter the promised land.
And God denies his request.
Wow, can you imagine?
I know.
Leading people for 40 years.
And then being told, you can't enter?
I know. It's like...
That must have been devastating.
It must have been.
What's striking, though, is Moses' acceptance.
Of this disappointment.
He doesn't rage.
He doesn't question.
He doesn't. Right? He just models surrender.
And trust.
Even in the face of unfulfilled desires.
That's a powerful lesson for all of us.
Oh, it is.
Especially when we face setbacks or disappointments.
I think we might be tempted to ask why.
Oh, yeah.
Or just give up on our dreams.
But Moses' example shows us that even when things don't go our way,
we can still choose to trust God's plan.
And find peace in his will.
That's right.
And then we see this crucial transition.
From Moses to Joshua. In chapters 3 and 4.
And it's more than just handing over leadership.
Okay.
It's passing on a legacy.
Of faith and obedience.
Yeah.
Mentorship on an epic scale.
Wow.
It highlights the importance
of investing in the next generation.
Of equipping them to carry on the mission.
It's like succession planning.
Yeah, it is. It is.
But then Moses gets pretty intense about idolatry.
He calls God a consuming fire.
That's pretty intense imagery.
It is. What do you think Moses is trying to convey here?
Well, it might seem harsh.
But it underscores God's holiness.
And the devastating effects of turning away from him. It's not about blind rule following.
It's about understanding that God's laws are for our ultimate good.
So how do we apply this today?
I mean, I don't know if rules is the right word, but...
They can feel pretty restrictive sometimes.
Yeah.
Well, that's where the shift in perspective
is so crucial.
What if we viewed those guidelines not as limitations,
but as a roadmap to a better,
more fulfilling life?
Okay.
Think of it like guardrails on a winding road.
Okay.
They keep you safe and on track.
That's a great analogy.
It's about aligning our lives with God's wisdom.
It is.
Trusting that he knows what's best for us.
Absolutely. And what's remarkable
is that Moses acknowledges
that they will stray at times. He knows human nature.
He does.
But he emphasizes that there's always a way back to God.
Oh, it's So good.
It's a message of hope and grace.
That resonates deeply.
Listener, have there been times
When you needed that reminder,
of second chances?
because that's a powerful takeaway
It is.
from this deep dive so far.
Indeed, it speaks to God's incredible mercy,
And willingness to redeem us.
no matter how far we've wandered.
Yeah, it speaks to the heart of God's character.
You know, it's not about earning his favor
Right.
through perfect obedience.
Mm-hmm.
It's about recognizing that he loves us
Unconditionally.
and desires to be in a relationship with us.
That's a beautiful thought
And it makes you think about this powerful phrase.
that Moses uses.
Okay.
Choose life, choose obedience.
Yeah.
Sounds a bit intense.
But also intriguing.
What's the deeper meaning behind those words?
Yeah, Moses isn't just laying down a set of rules.
Right.
He's presenting a choice.
He's saying that aligning ourselves with God's ways
Ultimately leads to life.
to flourishing.
Okay?
Think about it this way,
God's commandments aren't meant to restrict us
but to guide us toward a life of purpose.
and fulfillment.
So it's not about like blind rule following.
Right.
It's about understanding that deeper meaning behind those rules.
And recognizing that they're actually for our benefit.
Exactly.
And it's about recognizing the consequences.
Of our choices.
Moses doesn't shy away from the hard truths.
Mm-hmm.
He reminds them,
How those who worshipped Baal Peor.
you know, a Canaanite god
Right.
associated with fertility and excess.
Face severe consequences.
Wow. Yeah,
That's a sobering reminder
it is.
that our choices have real consequences.
Both positive and negative.
Yes, they do.
It reminds me of that old saying.
We reap what we sow.
Yeah.
You know?
But even with that warning,
There's still this incredible message of hope
there is
woven throughout.
absolutely, even though Moses warns them,
About future failings,
mm,
he assures them that God's mercy is always available.
no matter how far they stray,
If they return to God with their whole heart.
he will forgive and restore them.
Wow, that's powerful.
It is.
It's like the story of the prodigal son.
There's always a path back home.
That's incredibly
And
encouraging.
I think it's something we all need to hear.
We do.
Sometimes.
Especially in the midst of our own struggles.
And failures.
Absolutely.
It's a testament to God's unwavering love.
And faithfulness.
Right.
And remember, these messages were given.
To a specific people in a specific time.
Yeah.
But the principles they contain.
Are timeless.
Uh-huh.
They speak to the human condition.
To our need for guidance.
Right.
For purpose.
For a relationship with something greater than ourselves.
Absolutely. So
How do we translate those principles?
into our own lives today.
The Israelites faced, giants.
And wilderness wanderings.
Yeah.
What are our modern day equivalents?
That's a great question.
Well, we face our own challenges, right?
Yeah.
Doubts, fears, temptations,
Relationship struggles, career setbacks.
financial worries.
Yeah,
The list goes on.
it does.
But just as God was faithful to them,
He's faithful to us.
that's right,
It's about trusting,
that God has a plan for us,
even when we can't see the full picture.
even when we can't see it.
And it's about,
Actively seeking his guidance
it is.
in our lives.
Right. Not just passively waiting for things to happen.
But actively engaging with our faith.
Exactly. It's about studying his word
Going for wisdom.
and surrounding ourselves with people who can encourage us in our faith journey,
Yes.
building that support system.
That community of faith
Right.
that can help us navigate,
The ups and downs of life.
because we're not meant to go it alone.
We're not.
We need each other.
We do.
And it's about recognizing,
That faith is a journey.
not a destination.
Okay.
There will be times of doubt,
Times of testing.
times when we feel like giving up.
Yeah.
But just like the Israelites,
Eventually entered the promised land
God will lead us to the fulfillment.
of his promises for our lives.
It takes perseverance, though, doesn't it?
It does.
It requires us to keep choosing faith,
To keep choosing obedience.
even when it's hard.
It does. And that's where the power of remembering comes. Moses constantly reminded the Israelites of their history,
Uh-huh.
of God's faithfulness in the past.
Okay.
We need to do the same.
We do.
So we need to remember the time.
When God has come through for us.
Yes.
When he's answered our prayers.
When he's carried us through those difficult situations.
Yes, those memories.
Can be incredibly powerful,
They can.
especially when we face new challenges.
Right.
They remind us that we've overcome obstacles before.
That God has been faithful in the past.
And that he'll be faithful again.
Right.
It's about building that foundation of trust.
Of knowing that God is who he says he is.
Uh-huh.
And that he will do what he's promised.
It's like building a spiritual muscle.
It is.
That ability to remember.
And to trust
Yes.
And it's a muscle we need to keep working on.
Especially when doubts start to creep in.
We do, absolutely. And that muscle,
it's essential for navigating
the inevitable wilderness seasons we all face.
Right.
Because life isn't always smooth sailing.
No, it's not.
There will be times of doubt.
Of testing, of feeling lost and alone.
And those are the times
when remembering becomes even more crucial.
It is. It's like having a compass.
That points us back to truth.
Back to God's faithfulness. Back to the hope that sustains us.
So we're not just passively reminiscing.
No, we're not.
We're actively using those memories
to shape our perspective
and guide our actions.
Precisely. And just as Moses prepared the Israelites
for the challenges ahead, we need to equip ourselves for the journey.
We need to study God's word.
To pray for wisdom and discernment.
And to surround ourselves
with people who will encourage and support us.
It's about building that spiritual infrastructure.
Yeah, it is.
That can withstand the storms of life.
Because they will come.
They will.
We need to be prepared.
We do. And it's about recognizing
that we're not in this alone.
God is with us every step of the way.
Just as he was with the Israelites.
Right.
He's guiding us, protecting us.
And leading us toward the fulfillment of his promises.
It's about surrendering to his will.
Trusting his timing.
And believing that he's working all things together for our good.
Even when we don't understand what he's doing.
Absolutely.
And as we do that,
as we choose to walk in faith and obedience,
we'll find ourselves living lives that are not only fulfilling,
but also impactful.
All become conduits of God's grace and love.
To the world around us.
It's about leaving a legacy of faith.
It is.
Just like Moses did for Joshua and the Israelites.
A legacy that echoes through generations.
Yes, it does.
So, listener, as we wrap up this deep dive into Deuteronomy, chapters 1 through 4.
I keep coming back to this idea of remembering.
Yeah.
Moses repeatedly urges the Israelites to remember their history.
To remember God's faithfulness.
To remember the lessons they've learned along the way.
It almost feels like he's giving them this pep talk.
It does.
This reminder of who they are and whose they are.
Yeah, it's about establishing a foundation for their future.
Okay.
Remembering their past.
Helps them understand their present.
And face their future with confidence.
That reinforces their identity.
As God's chosen people.
Right.
And fuels their faith in his promises.
You know, think about it. If they can recall all the times God came through for them in the past.
Right.
It makes it easier to believe he'll do it again in the future.
Like those times.
You know, when you're feeling discouraged, doubtful.
Because someone reminds you of a time.
You overcame a huge obstacle.
Suddenly you feel this surge of hope and strength.
You do, exactly.
Those memories become anchors.
For our faith.
Wow.
They remind us that God is faithful.
Even when our circumstances feel shaky.
Okay.
And it's not just about reminiscing.
Right.
It's about actively using those memories.
To shape our perspective.
And guide our actions.
So we're not just passively looking back.
No, we're not.
We're actively drawing strength and wisdom from those experiences.
We are.
And I think it's important to remember
that those memories aren't just about the big dramatic events. They're also about those smaller, everyday moments.
Where we see God's hand at work.
That's so true. Yeah.
It could be something as simple as a beautiful sunset.
Yeah.
A kind word from a stranger.
Or a moment of peace in the midst of chaos.
Wow.
Those moments are like little love notes.
God.
Reminding us that he's always with us.
That's a great way to look at it.
And when we take the time to notice.
Then appreciate those moments.
It cultivates a posture of gratitude.
Yes, it does.
It helps us to see the world.
Through this lens of hope.
And possibility.
Even when things are tough.
It's like choosing to focus on the good.
Yeah.
Even when there's a lot of bad happening.
Around us.
Right. It doesn't mean ignoring the problems.
It doesn't.
But it does mean choosing to believe.
That God is bigger than our problems.
He is.
And that he can work through them for our good.
Absolutely.
It reminds me of that verse.
In Romans 8:28.
Okay.
And we know that in all things God works for the good.
Of those who love him, who have been called.
According to his purpose.
That's right.
It's a truth that can sustain us.
Through any challenge, any wilderness experience.
Any giant we may face.
Yeah, because ultimately, it's not about our strength.
It's about God's power.
Working in and through us.
So as we wrap up this deep dive.
Listener, I want to leave you with this challenge.
Take some time to reflect on your own journey.
What are the key moments?
The defining experiences that have shaped your faith.
Where have you seen God's faithfulness most clearly?
Think about those times.
When you felt his presence most powerfully.
When he answered your prayers in an unexpected way.
When he carried you through a difficult situation.
And how can those memories fuel your trust in God today?
How can they empower you?
To face whatever challenges lie ahead.
With courage and confidence.
Because just like the Israelites stood on the brink
of the promised land,
we too stand on the threshold of something incredible.
We do.
God has a plan for each of us.
A plan filled with purpose.
With hope.
With abundant life.
And it's up to us
to step into that plan.
To embrace the journey.
And to trust the one who's leading us every step of the way.
Keep exploring.
Keep questioning.
And keep the conversation going.
Until next time, keep diving deep.